Go ahead. Give me your name, spell it, and tell me exactly what it's like.
My name's Pat Miletich, last name Miletich. Currently the UFC lightweight champion. Held that title for 3 years. Basically, used a lot of different types of martial arts, boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Russian Sambo. I use all those styles.
How did you get into this?
When I left college, I was done wrestling. I was just wanting to stay in shape, basically, and it just went from there. I went to learn kickboxing, got into that, won a Muay Thai kickboxing title belt, and then when the Ultimate Fighting Championship came out, I started fighting in smaller shows to build up my record and experience. Just made it a goal of mine to get into the UFC, and finally made it. Just reaching the UFC was a great accomplishment for me.
Explain the UFC.
The Ultimate Fighting Championship, a lot of people have, there's a lot of misconceptions about the sport. People think it's like the WWF, it's fake. It is the real thing. There's world-class athletes from different types of martial arts, and a lot of them cross-train to get good at stand-up fighting and ground fighting. You have to be skilled at all now to be successful. Guys that are gold medalists in wrestling, Division I All-American wrestlers, world-class kickboxers, world-class submission grapplers. So the athletes are phenomenal.
So, why do you think this guy's
Well, when the sport first came out, the promoters to promote it said brutal steel cage, no rules, this and that, and I think that really scared a lot of people. What we did in Iowa specifically was write the rules to make it more of a sport, no headbutts, no groin strikes. We took a lot of things out that were more brutal so that the public would accept it, and it makes it safer for the fighters. We wanted it to be a sport.
So now when it's sport, it's got divisions, has it all that?
Yeah, it has weight divisions, and it is a sport. Like I say, it's very complex. It's more of a chess match than anything else. I've done a lot of different sports at a high level, and this sport by far is more of a cerebral sport than any sport I've been involved with. It takes great endurance, great strength, and a lot of thinking going on.
So this championship, UFC isn't always, every time you guys have events, it's the championship. Necessarily.
Every time that I have to fight now, I have to defend my belt. It's just like a boxer defending his belt. There's a lot of guys working their way up through the ranks to get a shot at the title belt. Generally, each show only has one weight division, one person defending their title, and then some undercard bouts. No, my next bout will be December 16th in Tokyo.
What is now Tokyo fight is different? Different than UFC.
Well, it's much different in Japan because the sport is bigger in Japan. They understand the sport because martial arts is much bigger in Japan. They understand that it takes a lot of technique to win a fight. And in America, you'll listen to the crowd of the fight. A lot of times people that don't understand the sport, and they're saying, why are they rolling around on the ground like a couple of girls? They don't understand that there's a lot going on the ground. And if you make a mistake, you can get caught in a submission hold that can do damage. So people don't understand what's going on. You'll hear in the crowd in America, punching, kicking, do this and that. They're more into the brutal part of the sport. Where in Japan, a guy will get caught in a submission hold, the crowd will start to roar because they understand the chess match on the ground. But then if the guy escapes and gets out of the submission hold, which is very tough to do, the crowd will roar even louder. So it's really neat to be in Japan and have a crowd that understands what you're doing.
The American public
I think definitely, because this sport, like I say, I've done pro boxing, played football at a high level, wrestling in college, and it's more of a sport than any sport I've been involved with. So definitely. Well, it's easy, I am my fan of, myself am a fan of boxing, but you have to look at the record and the track record of both sports. Compared to boxing, boxing's had over 450 deaths since World War II alone. Our sports had one death in 90 years, and the person that died had a pre-existing condition. So our track record compared to other sports is very safe. It is a rough sport. I'm not saying it's not a rough sport, but it is a very safe sport.
So is it the blood because of why is it more?
Well, basically, there's more blood because we wear smaller gloves. But what people don't understand is there's so much grappling going on. It's hard to punch somebody if you're off balance, you're getting thrown around, things like that. so there's not quite as much punching. Also, your hands aren't as protected as well. When you wear boxing gloves with hand wraps and everything else, I can throw punches all I want, and generally it won't hurt my hands. The bigger padding in the gloves causes obviously less cuts, so the fights go longer. The boxer takes more punishment to the head, therefore you get the brain damage and the deaths, the comas, things like that. So our sport, you don't take as much punishment to the head.
Are you full time now? Can you make a living off this?
Yeah, now that I've made it to pay-per-view and hold the world title, I do make good money for my fights, and also now I'm building a $3 million facility at Gold's Gym, which is a martial arts complex. So it's done quite a bit for my life.
Where do you see this sport?
Basically, what this sport needs is people with power in the sporting world understanding the sport. That's all it takes. There's a lot of people that don't understand it that fear it, and that's just the same. If you don't fear something, or if you don't understand something, you fear it. And that's what a lot of people have problems with, is just simply not understanding the sport. So our challenge is to educate the public and the politicians and the boxing commissions that this is truly a sport.
How do you think what's going on with the boxing commissions? What's going on with licensing?
Well, the way that I think some of the boxing commissions perceive our sport is something that's going to take away from boxing. And what they don't understand is, like in Iowa and some other sports, our sport being taxed by the boxing commissions actually has helped the boxing, because the money that comes from our events goes to fund the Golden Gloves and the amateur boxing gyms around the state. So it actually helps the boxing. So if they use the money in the correct way, it'll help their sport also.
Do you think boxing is scared?
Is boxing afraid of us? I think some people, yeah, in the boxing world might be a little afraid of us taking over. But that's the thing, is nothing better is putting on a show with boxing and the mixed martial arts on the same card, because then you draw people from both sports to one arena, and they get an appreciation for both sports, and you build your fan base.
There are fans out there, though. It's just more of a cult sport, right?
It's the people that take martial arts and take the types of martial arts that's necessary, the reality martial arts. They understand the sport, so in a sense, it might be a type of a cult sport. But imagine, like with boxing, if boxing never existed here, and I came up to you and said, "Hey, I've got a great idea for a sport. We're going to take some 12-ounce gloves, put them on some guys' hands, and have them punch each other in the face for 12 rounds, 3-minute rounds, and see which one goes down first." Does that sound like a great idea to you? You'd probably say you're crazy. So that's the thing that we're trying to do, is make people understand that it's a sport.
Are you an athlete or anything?
Well, you have to be both. Obviously, I've got a job to do. People pay money to see me perform, but I have to think of myself as a professional athlete, because there's a lot on the line. If I lose my title, I don't make the most money.
If you're wrestling, you think you're going to be the biggest wrestler? Or do you think all wrestling?
If it's marketed correctly, I do believe so. In Japan, they've taken pro wrestlers and taught them how to fight, and brought them into the mixed martial arts fights, so that they bring the huge crowds from the pro wrestling into our area, and now they've got 40 to 60,000 people in the Tokyo Dome watching mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts is a combination of when you're standing, of punching, like boxers, throwing kicks. So it's a kickboxing, along with it's legal to throw elbows and knees. So there's a lot of weapons that you have to watch out for. Like I said, there's a lot of thinking going on. Then you use the wrestling takedowns. If say someone's better than you at standing up, and you're taking damage standing up, you can take them down, put them on their back, and start working to submit them, catch them in a submission hold that either hyperextends the joints, the elbows, the shoulders, the knees, and the ankles, or chokeholds that briefly cut off the blood supply to the brain to make the person pass out. The thing that people don't understand is that all I have to do, if I'm in trouble in a submission hold, I can tap my opponent 3 times, signaling defeat. Therefore, I'm not injured, the fight's over, and nobody gets injured bad. People think that we fight to the death or until somebody's unconscious, and that's not the case. Thank you.
I'll give you this stuff upstairs.
Okay.
I was watching the TV. Watching Vitor's traps. Who is this? Tito Ortiz. I've never seen this shit. Those shoes apparently go swimming. I don't know. They have to sew them right. Has to be stitched.
Haven't eaten
Been
yet.
up since 6:30 and we haven't eaten a thing.
Go downstairs and eat. Go downstairs and eat, and then come back. Press conference will start probably 30 minutes or so.
Because I'd like to go to my room for about 5 seconds. Throw my sweatshirt.
Is that yours?
Yeah, that's what
Did you steal it from me?
you stole mine. Do you have to go to your room? Yeah, I was so tired. I don't have my green card. I never asked for mine.
Yeah, mine's in my room too.
I feel good. I want to. It is. Next time I'm down here,
Go get something. You guys go get something to eat and then come back. Go down to the cafeteria and get some food.
what were you asking about? Weight class? Special weight class?
Yeah, which okay.
Mine.
Did you spend 9 hours at the hospital too?
We have not eaten since last night.
Yeah.
They would have hooked us up if we were here.
Yeah, I just sent Jens and those guys to the cafeteria to eat. I'd just go eat if I were you guys and then come back. Because they're not going to start for another half hour probably anyways.
Yeah, the best.
How you been? Good. How have you been? Oh, hello. We got it yesterday. Did you guys just get it?
I got
Guys that went to Kentucky right now, New Jersey. One of them had a real good fight, close fight. Another one, I guess, was smoking the guy who was fighting, and the guy ended up on top of it somehow. This is for everybody. He gave the guy a key lock so that he could roll. Unfortunately, he didn't roll.
Unfortunately,
That was his way to get that issue out. When I see him, I'm going to go, what is that? But
And we'll go over
When
and
you're
start
standing there
doing this
looking at
again.
something, you can see things. And I've heard too many corner guys telling people things that, I'm looking at and say, that's a wrong thing to tell.
Yeah, no,
And
I like the pants.
Pat Miletich never, ever given a guy anything but great advice. Everything he says is right. Even when he's telling a guy, hey, you're okay, just sit there, you're good. Or if he's telling him, hey, go for this, do this, it's always the right thing. He's a great, he is the top corner person. If there's anyone close, there may be one. He is right at the top. He is unbelievable.
What do you think makes him so good?
It's his knowledge that he when Pat started fighting, he got caught up in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He also incorporated his wrestling into it, and then realized you got to be a good stand-up, and he was doing Muay Thai and things like that. And he became a complete fighter. He wasn't a one-dimensional fighter, and he was one of the first guys that really was pretty complete in the beginning. There wasn't a lot of him, and so since he was so complete, he realized that you need all the different aspects to be a complete fighter, and he took all that and he made himself that. He's very good at stand-up. He always, the thing about Pat is Pat makes other people fight his fight. And if there's one thing I'd say, if you're going to be a fighter, if you're a good stand-up fighter, Pat's going to be the guy that's going to try to take you to the ground and use his skills on the ground. And if you're a good ground fighter, he's going to say, you know what, I'm going to take you out of your game and make you uncomfortable and make you stand up and fight him because he's very hard to get down. So he's a complete package when you fight him. He's got very good hands, good strong kicks. He may not be the greatest stand-up fighter in the world, but he's really good at what we do. His stand-up skills are among the best, right? And so his stand-up skills are so that if you are someone who is a ground fighter, he's going to tell you, you know what, I don't think you can get me down there. And stand here and fight my fight. And he's proven that time and again with the guys that he's fought. You take a look at Andre Pederneiras when he fought him. He's great on the ground. He can get that down. Right. That's a big problem if you're a fighter.
Sure. Well, you've seen so many different fighters. I mean, you've probably refereed more than anybody else in mixed martial arts. When you look at Pat, why do you think he is that kind of complete fighter? Because he trains the way he does?
because he trains extremely hard. He's in good physical. He's never in bad shape. He's always in really good physical condition. The only time I think Pat's ever had problems in his fights is because Pat goes into the fight injured. Right. And that's something, we all go and say, hey, I've got to do this. There's times when you should back out and not do it. If I was going to say anything bad about Pat, I'd tell him there's times that, you tell him I can't fight. Right. I'm injured right now, and I think he's learned from that because he's lost because of it. And he's getting himself healed. And you watch him, if he comes into a match, he's always in great shape. And if he comes in at good health as far as no injuries or anything like that, there's no one out there that can dominate Pat. He is so good that he can fight even in weight classes above what he fights and hold his own against top people. And fighting in his weight class, Pat is just a guy, again, that he makes the other fighter fight a fight that he doesn't want to be in. Right. And that causes that fighter frustration. It causes him anxiety. It makes the person get tired. And once they make a mistake, Pat's there to take advantage of it. That's what makes him so good.
If you were somebody that was going to fight Pat, or if you were somebody, let's.
If I got really dumb for a little while.
Let me rephrase that question. If you were somebody who was looking at this tape, would you ready? Yeah. If you were somebody that was looking at this tape, and you were deciding whether you were going to buy a mixed martial arts tape that's where somebody's going to teach you instruction by a person like Pat or someone else, why would you choose Pat?
That's pretty simple. Here's a guy he's been there, done that. This guy, he doesn't talk the talk, he walks. He walks his sport, he knows it's his passion. And to be a person that goes and teaches martial arts is a good thing. To be a person that not only teaches martial arts, it goes out and fights in a freestyle form against other top quality competition. You're putting your name, your reputation on the line every time you step out there. To do that is extremely difficult because you got a lot on the line. You have students that are back at your school that maybe have been there for maybe a month. They think, oh, you're really good, and then if you get beat, what do they think? He's not that good, and they end up going someplace else. You've got to have a guy that's had the experience, that has been there and done it, and that's the thing about Pat. He's been in, every situation you can think of, he's been in. He's been the guy on top of people. He's been the guy underneath. He's been the guy that's being punched. He's been the guy that is punching. He knows exactly what you need to do in a given situation to get yourself out of it. That's like what I'm talking about when he is a corner person and he's watching guys he trains fight, and he's telling them what to do, and he's always saying the right thing. That tells you here's a guy that knows what he's talking about. That's why you want to learn from someone like Pat instead of someone who, they might have a lot of certificates on the wall and a nice fancy belt. You've seen that this is a guy that can do it. So.
That's awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Definitely appreciate it.
Myself, I'm Matt Harkness. I'd like to welcome the UFC competitors and SEG Sports to the Trump Taj Mahal. This is the first time this event, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, has been held in Atlantic City. Trump Taj Mahal is very happy to be hosting this event. This event is being done in conjunction with SEG Sports Productions. And right now I'd like to introduce James Wormy of SEG Sports.
This afternoon. It is a great pleasure to be here at the Taj. I want to thank Matt, his staff, they've been great, as well as the New Jersey State Athletic Commission. We will be seeing a lot of them in the next few days. They've been great. It's great to finally bring the UFC to a showcase venue like Atlantic City and the Taj Mahal, and it's a great pleasure for us all to be here. As we all know, the main event is going to include our current heavyweight champion, Kevin Randall, and the challenger, former champ, Randy Couture. Interesting to point out when we talk about these two guys, two of the finest athletes, certainly in the country, and definitely that the UFC has ever seen. Between the two, we've got six national championships, 4 world teams, 3 Big Ten championships, combined record 7-1. These guys are the cream of the crop and the best of the best that the UFC has to offer. And it's really great that we can bring this kind of main event to this kind of place. So at this time, we'd open up the floor for questions for Randy and Kevin. I'd also like to say Jeff Blatnick. Jeff's our color commentator with the gold medalist. He's also the head of the Mixed Martial Arts Council. So we'll open up the floor for questions.
I have a question. What's that? How are you feeling, man? Healthy? Good? feel real good. That's all we want.
We'll give you guys a great fight.
I have another question. Randy, do you play PlayStation 2 at all?
The only one I've played is GoldenEye. My son kicks my rear end.
Well, I tell you what, I got GoldenEye upstairs in the room, and we just have no fun before.
That's great.
My last fight in the Octagon was against Maurice Smith for the title in December of 98, I believe. 97, December of 97. And then for one reason or other that next year, injuries and contract disputes and all kinds of good stuff, never got back into the Octagon. I actually fought 2 more times in Japan, both of which I'd probably like to erase off my record, but they didn't take it out. And primarily decided that as an Olympic wrestler, and probably coming up on my last chance to make the Olympic team in 2000 for Sydney, I was going to concentrate solely on wrestling. It became very hard to juggle both sports and do them justice. I felt like when I was concentrating on one, the other was suffering. Before I decided to concentrate on wrestling this last year and a half. Unfortunately, I lost the match 3-2 in the semifinals of the Olympic trials, so I was an alternate again for the 4th time for the Olympic team. After which I decided it was time to retire. At 37, there was no way I was going to go for a 5th Olympic trials. I've been on the world team 4 times in my careers.
VIP sections of things.
So I retired, and fighting was something I felt like I still had a lot of things to learn and achieve, and so I wanted to come back and get back in the ring and fight.
Maurice Smith for Seattle Post. I'd like this question to Randy. Since you've been out a while, how do you feel? How do you prepare to fight Kevin? Seeing that you've seen he's young, he's aggressive. He's what I call a passive aggressor. How do you plan to approach Mr. Randleman?
I don't know about. I don't see the passive part.
Well, when I say passive aggressor, I mean he sits a little bit, then he explodes, and he sits and waits and explodes. Kind of applied. I just determine it as passive aggressive. How do you see it?
No question, very athletic and very aggressive style of fighting, and I think that that's something that I had to be prepared to deal with. Just the fact that I'm competing against another wrestler who probably has equal to or better takedown skills than I have creates a possibility where I may end up on the bottom, and that's someplace that I haven't been.
I've been there.
And so taking that eventuality or possibility into account, I spent a lot of time down there, both in trying to get back to a neutral position and be able, like you do so well, protect myself when I'm on the bottom and be effective from down there.
Now this is for Mr. Randleman. Now you're fighting Randy Couture, top-rated wrestler, Greco wrestler. What's your approach in attacking him this fight compared to say fighting like myself, a kickboxer, or Hazel Hydro?
Anyone that fights a kickboxer, especially when we're wrestlers, since we're wrestlers, we're gonna have shoes on and we're not gonna be kicking. That's a little less. I don't have that stress of worrying about getting my head kicked off. But it's definitely stress because I know I've watched this man, and we went to college during the same time, and we definitely know exactly how good we are, how good each other are, and the respect is there. Just like Randy, Mark and I, we made sure that I was on the bottom and knew how to work better. I'm not used to being there, but when you get there, if you're not used to it. I know it's going to be a great fight, and I know that Randy knows that I came in and I'm going to be here in the best shape of my life, and I know that he's already in the best shape of his life. I think that it's going to be a war from start to finish, and you might see that passive, aggressive, or whatever, but this is one fight that I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I mean, when I'm fighting a kickboxer or a kicker, I know that when the kick comes, my first instinct is to try and take me down. But how do you do that against someone who wants to stand toe-to-toe to you and knee and punch and shoot shots? I mean, I don't look at him as Randy Couture. I look at him as a mirror image of myself. I'm no better than this man, and I don't, I'm not saying he's better than I, but the mutual respect is there. And I can guarantee everyone that watches pay-per-view, everyone that even comes is going to see probably one of the greatest UFC events because the matchups are so nice, well paired and everything like that.
Well, the matchup itself is kind of wrestler versus wrestler, so to the public, it's going to be kind of a, like I said, like you said, a mirror. So then how do you guys plan to approach this, not being quote wrestler versus wrestler? What's going to be the different edge between the both of them?
Well,
without telling secrets, of course.
It's no secret. I'll let you know. I plan on boxing because, I mean, I don't want to try and take the man down right away. Are you kidding? He's a wrestler. That's why I say I don't know how it's going to go. When you engage, you don't know whether you're going to try and shoot because the knee might come, or do you want to stand up, try and, wear him down with punches, or do you want to get in and tie up and wear him down with some pummeling? I mean, if you watch Randy fight, he fought Victor Belfort, and I laughed during the fight because I was like, wow, smart, he's wearing him down. Victor wasn't used to having a wrestler on his head and on his arms, and that tires you out. But because we're wrestlers, don't expect to see either one of us get tired when we're pummeling in the fifth. We'll be ready to punch, we'll be ready to take down, we'll be ready to give knees and the whole nine. That's why I think this will be one of the, I've not fought very well, and that's not a secret. But I think that Randy Couture is definitely going to bring the best out of Kevin Randall tomorrow night.
Same question.
Same question to me.
Yeah.
But you're pointing at him.
No, you. He's not fighting.
Yeah, I realize that. There's no question that this is going to be a great fight. We both bring a wrestling background to the table, which creates, in my estimation, that's what makes this sport interesting, is the different styles and the different backgrounds. And now it's kind of interesting to see two guys with similar backgrounds in the competition arena and to see how that sorts out. Our styles are pretty similar, I think. We both try to achieve a dominant position on top, take our opponents down. So I guess it's going to come down to who's kind of done the cross-training and learned some of the other positions and be able to execute or find some opportunities to execute technique in some of the other positions, because the normal takedown and dominant top position is probably not going to be there.
Either one of you plan on kicking?
I am not wearing shoes.
I'm not wearing shoes either.
All right.
Yeah.
This could be interesting.
Joe?
I'd like to change gears for a second. Looks like I'm Joe Gall from Full Contact Fighter, the #1 no-holds-barred news source of the world. My question is for the Commissioner, Jeff Blatnick. This is a great opportunity for the UFC, coming to Atlantic City for the first time. You as a commissioner, was there any concessions that you had to make to get this wonderful sport into the state? Or if any, did you have to make any concessions?
There is a rule change that will be instituted for the fights tomorrow. This decision came very recently in terms of the New Jersey Commission. They had a concern with knees to the opponent on the ground. And the way the rule will read here will be no kneeing on the ground. And that will be, when you look at the other UFC rules, you would interpret what's on the ground the same way you would as no kicking on the ground. I would like to try and talk with the commission and see as far as kneeing an opponent who is doing a leg attack or shooting under legs, and to allow that if the knee happens to be down because the fighter is upright, to be the same as a knee to a standing position. as opposed to somebody who's on their back, sideline, and catching a knee to the head. So based on their medical concern for safety with the knees, they have asked for that rule. I've been informing the fighters here at this press conference about it, and hopefully by the fighter meeting, before the fighter meeting, they will be clear. Other than that, all the other rules are intact, and I know no other concessions.
Frank Shamrock, StrikerSports.com. I have a question for Mr. Couture. Does the rule change affect your style or your plan of attack at all?
We're doing good.
I've found myself in a situation where I've had a guy's head snapped down, had him on all fours in a couple of my fights, and been able to land what I felt were pretty effective knees. Same thing from the north-south position, on the ground position, where I've been able to land some knees to the top of the head. I don't anticipate being able to snap Kevin as easily as possibly some of the other fighters that I've competed against, because he's used to having people hang on his head. He's used to being snapped throughout his collegiate and freestyle wrestling career. So I don't know that it'll be a factor in this fight, but certainly a knee is an effective weapon. And so I think it would affect any fighter if you take that weapon away.
Joel, I do have a follow-up. The other, I guess you could call it a concession, is we always felt that we had a very stringent medical safety testing of each fighter going into every one of our events. I would say that New Jersey's is probably the most stringent of any state that we've ever gone to in terms of checking fighters and medical backgrounds and testing fighters prior to the event. So in a sense, that was a concession as well, other than that, nothing else.
Do you feel these tests are necessary, or do you feel that it goes a little overboard?
They don't hurt in terms of looking at it from a medical point of view. No, if you want to find out exactly where an individual stands, New Jersey is finding out more detail than most states.
Mr. Blatnick. Well, with New Jersey and their strict medical requirements, will this change at all the requirements that the UFC has on the whole?
I believe we have found that our rules and procedures and policies have up to this date shown a very effective safety record. We wanted to come into New Jersey. They're considered in the boxing world as one of the big three. We felt mixed martial arts coming into this state, both in an earlier show and with the UFC coming here, could be a big step towards perhaps getting into another of the big three. But I don't see the medical testing having any real dampening effect on what we're going to do. Up to now, it appears our safety record and our procedures that we have followed have led to exactly what we want in the fights, and that is safe outcomes.
My question is from Mr. Kevin Randleman, Joel Gold, full contact fighter. It is rumored that possibly after winning this, if you win this title, that possibly you would go down to the middleweight to fight for a title down there. Is that a possibility?
I voiced the opinion a long time ago. I do want to move down to middleweight. I weigh 205, 210 pounds, and I'm tired of fighting big guys. It wears and tears on your body. But the bottom line is the reason why I voiced that I wanted to fight middleweight is so that I could fight more. It really doesn't matter who we fight, where we fight them. I just, instead of sitting dormant for 6 months out of the year, I want to fight 4 times. And I want to fight for whoever's going to give me the opportunity to fight. I want to be, when it's all said and done, I want to be recognized or in the same category as the Shamrocks and the Gracies and the Coleman, those guys that got in there and fought, and you can see them. And that's what I want. I just want to learn. I mean, you can't learn by trying to fight your friends all the time in practice. You can't get your jaw dislocated enough. But you get better experience when you're fighting another opponent. And that's what I want. I want to get better. And the only way I'm going to get better is if I have more fights.
This is returning around at Maurice Smith, Seattle Pulse. Rumor has it, just rumor, is that you've been working on your striking. Have you been working on it heavily, or just working more on the boxing aspect or the kickboxing aspect, or both together?
Yeah, Maurice, you helped me realize that. You kicked the crap out of my leg a couple times. Remember that?
No, No, I don't actually.
Yes.
I've never seen myself on the bottom.
One thing we do know that you cannot expect to be a dominating force unless you have a lot of weapons in your arsenal. A la Frank Shamrock or even the Jeremy Horns and the Sakurabas. These are great fighters, and I enjoy watching them fight because they have so many weapons in their arsenal. I want to be that type of fighter too, so yes, I've been working. I was wrestling, but wrestling is going to always be my mainstay. I work very hard every single day, boxing for hours, working submissions, working on kicks and knees. And I honestly think that my hands are some of the best here, period. I just think.
Mr. Couture, being you've been out for a while, I probably came in late. You're making a big jump from a year after no, you fought after we fought. And then you come in against the champion. Did you find that a bit of a jump to come back to? Or like most guys want to come up and build first, they can go for it, but you're going right for the goal. Is that a wrestling mentality?
Fortunately, I had a couple fights last month in Japan. They kind of gave me a chance to see where I was at and knock the rust off and kind of gauge where I feel like I've spent the last year and a half, even though I was concentrating on wrestling, the fighting, the submission, and the striking have been not only great fun for me, but they're a break from the grind of the wrestling match when I'm trying to get ready for Olympic competition and the nationals and so forth. So I've continued to train and be on the mat and use the submission and the grappling and the striking as a break from that. And so I think I've learned a lot in the last year and a half. I've added a lot of things to my game.
Right, but you're going against the title holder.
And there's no question that's a consideration, stepping right back in, right into the heat, right out of the, after being out for a year and a half. And that was something I had to think about. And I have a lot of respect for Kevin. And I kind of got into the sport that way in the beginning. I just, at a 2 weeks notice, I stepped right in there, and it went well for me, and I don't expect that it's going to go any different now. I'm just going to, I've trained hard, I'm prepared, and I can go out and give it everything I have, and whatever happens, happens. And I think that that's the most important thing here that you're going to see between Kevin and I is no matter what happens in the cage tomorrow night, after the fight, we're going to shake hands, and we'll go play Nintendo or whatever, because that's the kind of attitude that we have about
That's pretty much how it's with all the fighters, I think. The respect level is very high, unlike pro wrestling and boxing. The respect level is there for all. We all appreciate each other. We all fight each other. We got that, except for the little guys.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
I think that it's not just you. It's including friends. Good job. But I think that the sport itself has evolved to a level where everybody can just get, because in the beginning when we all come in, it was wrestler versus kickboxer versus jiu-jitsu versus this. Now everybody realizes we have to work together. And I think the respect factor is there high amongst other sports. Can you say anything to that?
Was that a question?
That last part, what did you say? Would you agree with me?
I do believe that mixed martial arts is a pretty close group, even if personalities do clash, and that the cross-training and the evolution of the sport certainly has taken place. I anticipate it will probably continue to materialize a little bit even more.
I can keep going if you want.
Well, I would love James, would you open it up here that if they want individual interviews and such, they can grab the fighters?
Yeah, so on behalf of the Taj and SCG and everyone involved in UFC 28, I want to thank you all for coming. Obviously, the guys are available for a few minutes into our personal interviews. They've had a long day, so we're going to get some rest, and we'll see you all tomorrow night. It's going to be a great show.
Ran their own press conference. That should be on the history right there. Fighters ran their own press conference. Fighters. football.